watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Good morning. How are you guys doing today? You're pretty excited. Welcome everybody that's watching online. Give them a hand. Yeah, they're doing all right. It's always, you guys watch online, it's always half-hearted. They're like, yeah, if you're from out of town, but if you're from here, drive your car. And so we know people tune in from all over the country, and then some people even working at hospitals are like, hey, I'm watching on my break and stuff. So thankful for you guys watching online as well. And man, one of the things that I love as we jump into these new series is we get to challenge ourselves in ways that we never have before. And so our last series, we jumped in and looked at the book of Psalms, and we sat in I Love the 90s through Psalm 90 through 99 and really challenged by some of those. And one of the things I led out of that series with was, hey, I was challenged early on when I came to faith was in the morning, no matter what else you read Psalm in the morning, read a proverb at night, and make that a reoccurring thing. And so we wanted to kind of put these series back to back in Psalms and now in Proverbs to really look at how do we build our faith. And if you've ever built something up, you know that you can't just slap it together. When my wife and I got married and kind of through the courtship relationship, we decided, hey, we're going to move into this townhouse down at the ocean front. And so she moved in first before because we wanted to honor God, and I wasn't going to move in because I knew if I moved in, then it wouldn't have gone well. And so we wanted to let her move in first. So she was there for a couple weeks, and we started redoing the backyard, and we wanted to build a shed before our wedding day, so that way when we came home, all our stuff would be in the shed and in the house and everything would be fine. And I called my dad over, and I expected, you're just going to go to Home Depot, get some stuff, we're going to build a shed. Oh, no. When my dad is involved in anything, it requires a lot more steps involved. And so he came over, and he had my dad, being in the Navy and stuff, he kind of knew what he was doing. So he had some of these tools to level things out, more so than just this, which I got this at my bachelor party. They decided to throw a bachelor party for me entitled Jason's a Tool. And so they bought, which was awesome a little, because I got a bunch of power tools and everything. And so if you're ever throwing a bachelor party, you're welcome. And so this is one of the things I got. And so I broke this out because I guess that's what we're going to do. And we do all that. He's like, no. And he got out all this equipment and stuff. And he's like, we're going to level this out. We're going to put the bricks down. I'm like, why do we need to put bricks? And he's like, well, we need a good foundation. I'm like, no, we just need to build a shed. We're not building a house. He's like, oh no. This thing will stand the test of time, which since we've moved and we've driven past there, it's still standing. And we did all this. We spent so much time leveling out each block. And he's telling me, you need to move that here, dig a little bit out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But took forever to build the foundation. Eventually got the shed built. The rest of it went pretty fast. But even after that first year, we watched our neighbor a couple doors down, and his shed was built right there on the ground, didn't have anything to support it, and it started sinking down. Good 20 degrees. The guy was freaking out. They had to tear it down, rebuild the shed. And I was like, man, and I understood what my dad was saying in the very beginning when we started building this. And he said, you know what? This shed will be able to house everything you need. You'll be able to enjoy it, but you have to do the work first. And he was right. That there had to be I had a different idea about what was going on, and I had to tear down my thinking and rebuild it from the ground up to learn what it meant to really build something the right way so that it would be life-giving for generations, which now we drive by there, and my wife and I will be married 14 years this fall, and we drive by that house on occasion, and that shed is still standing while other ones are completely gone. And I wonder, what will we do to build a foundation for things that will really be life-giving over time? And this changes for many of us. When we're younger, there are things that are different when it comes to life-giving. I remember I could run around and do whatever I wanted to. I could go play soccer, I could go skateboard, go surfing, you name it. I'd come home, and one of the things that I found extremely life-giving were these. I could eat a pack of these, an entire thing, which made my parents extremely angry because they're like, we bought those for a while. And I mean, they were for a while. Now they're going to live a while on my stomach. And I would eat these things and just sit down and eat them. I could sit and do nothing all day long. Eat a pack of these, lose 2 pounds. I'd gain 3 pounds just holding this in my hand right now. How many of you guys who are a little bit older, by show of hands, you remember you used to eat things like this and now you can't anymore? Yeah, right? And all of you guys who are in your 20-somethings right now, eat every pack of these while you can. Because God starts to pump the brakes on your body at about 30. And you're just like, what happened? Like, I got to put these down. I can feel it. I'm feeling every part of me. But now I've traded, and it was life-giving back then. But now I've traded my Oreos for orthopedic inserts. There is nothing greater than to be able to slide these puppies on. You're like, And those of you guys who are in your 20s, you have no idea. But one day you're going to be like, oh, he was right. You see, over time, the things that bring us life change. And the foundation that we lay will change the spectrum of everything that we do. And my hope as we look at this series, and it's why we called it Rebuild, because you have an idea of faith. Whether you're close to God this morning, watching or here live with us, whether you're close to God this morning or you're still kind of unsure about the divine and faith, every single one of us has some semblance or idea foundationally of what we think God is, what we think the church should be, what we think faith should be lived out. We begin to piece these things together from things that we've seen, life experience, etc. And so we walk into this already with a preconceived notion about what it looks like to follow God. And my hope over the course of 4 weeks that we can take some time to have a full conversation, which is why just showing up for 1 week really doesn't do us a lot of justice. It's like showing up at the middle of the Born Ultimatum, Born this and that, the Born series, and you're like, I don't understand what everything's going on. Yeah, you don't. And don't be the person that asks a bunch of questions in the middle of it. You sit and you walk through all of it. And you look at each piece of it and you put the whole conversation together and you go, you know what? If I'm going to follow the wisdom of God, I want to be able to invest time to learn about what it means to build my faith from the ground up so that I can have a life-giving movement and journey on this earth and beyond. And so if you have a Bible, I would love for you to turn over to Proverbs chapter 3 is where we're going to be today. Proverbs chapter 3. If you don't have a Bible, great, we give you 2 options to be able to get one for free today. One, stop by in the lobby. For those of you guys who are here live in service, stop by in the lobby at the Get Connected table. They'll give you a free one. You don't have to fill anything out, no catch. Or you can go to forefrontchurch.info for those of you guys who are more digitally inclined or watching online. You can make sure to save that to your home screen so you can recall that each week when we're together and throughout the week. And swipe over a couple times and click the notes section. Everything will be there for you that we're going to talk about today, and there's a Bible tab, so you could download a Bible app if that's something that you'd like. We have a bunch of people who do that, and it's a great opportunity to engage the Bible, not just on a Sunday, which is awesome. I'm super proud of you that you're doing that, but how about also trying to engage that throughout the week? And the Bible apps that are mentioned there on that Bible tab are fantastic for you to be able to use. And today, even if you don't have a Bible, the scriptures will be here on the screen. We're going to look and say, you know what, God? If you're giving me things during different stages of life, some of them are kind of, superfluous, and some of them are like really meaningful. But like, what if my life were based foundationally on you? What kind of life-giving movement would happen in my life and then for and to others. And so over in Proverbs chapter 3, it starts in verse 1. It'll be here on the screen. It says, "My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commandments in your heart, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity." Now, before we go any further, I want to let you know, if you've ever, sat in church or, been a part of a faith community of any kind, or maybe you've watched faith things online and you saw somebody and they were like, "If you would just send us $2, I'll send you a prayer cloth. And you're going to have $1 million in your bank account." I want to rest, lay something to rest here. And we note this when it comes up in the Bible, because the Bible should do two things every time we open it. It should encourage us, and there should be a bit of a challenge, a bit of a rub. Because if you just read it and you're like, "I agree with everything," and this may be disconcerting to you or it may bring you hope and rest assurance, I open up the Bible, and every time I open it, I go, "Man, that's awesome." I turn another page, I'm like, "Ooh, I don't really like that." Because there are things that challenge me, and I don't necessarily all the time want to be challenged. And so as we look at this, I can tell you right now that just because you follow Jesus doesn't mean your bank account's going to be big. I'm very much proof of that. And so it continues on. "Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart." Man, if we would have more love and faithfulness within our culture, how much things would change. Facebook would just shut down if we had that. "Then you will win favor and good name in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord." This is key. "Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Verse 7. "Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil." I want to make sure when we hear this fear, we're like, oh, like God's, because we picture this celestial curmudgeon with a lightning bolt going, mess up, mess up, mess up, and like just throwing it like, "Oh, my alternator broke," or "Oh, my fridge is broken," or all this stuff. "I sinned and now God did this." That is not the way that God works. When it talks about this fear, it's a healthy fear, a healthy reverence, a respect that's due. Like my mom and dad, when they would enter a room as a kid, I love my parents. But there was also a healthy reverence, respect, and a little fear, and that was okay. That doesn't mean, "Oh, your parents were bad or your parents were evil." No, it means my parents were parents and they weren't my best friend. And you might be like, "Oh, they weren't your best friend." No, if you're your kid's best friend, you need to grow up and get new friends that are your own age, because you don't need to be your kid's best friend. They can go find new friends. And when we talk about this fear of God, this is a healthy respect that God is who he is, and I will honor him as such. So this will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. You see, I love the fact that we get to dive into passages like this, as the writer begins to share with us and open up a very personal kind of moment where we say, listen, life is going to be difficult, and you're going to have the temptation to find a life-giving movement that is all about what you want. But the writer cautions us, says, listen, as much as you want to do that, that won't end very well for you or I. And so I suggest that you would lean into God and trust God before you would trust all of these other things that would push you down a path that won't lead you to where ultimately you want to be. You see, we hear that, we go, man, that would be good, and I want to live for God. I want to share that, because the fact that we're even here, that we're tuning in, means that we have the hope. We have the inkling of the possibility that God could transform our lives in some way that would lead us to a place where life would be better. We wouldn't just show up and go, "Oh, this is just what I'm supposed to do." I mean, maybe somebody drug you here this morning, and we don't condone that, but we're glad you're here. No one's holding a gun to your head as you tune in online, but we're thankful that you're a part of this. But at the end of the day, the reason that we're here is because we believe that there could be the chance that things could change. The unfortunate part is we think it can change for other people, but very often we don't think it can change for us. So we read these passages out of a book like Proverbs, and we go, oh, that's amazing things that can happen. People that trust in God, and they can have a life that's overflowing, and they can be shown grace, and that can happen for them, but not for somebody like me. You see, we look at other people, And we go, man, they can do that. But then when you look at our lives and the sin that happens, the failures that happen, the hurt that has taken place, and we go, there's no way that somebody like me could be accepted into God's family because I've just messed up too much. I have fallen too badly. And I want to encourage you that grace, I love it, that grace is like water and it flows to the lowest part. That as you've looked at your life and kind of stir up that memory, and maybe it may be in this very moment right now, where you have just life is difficult. It is hard. You had a moment before, you're in that moment now, or at some point you will have that, and you feel like that moment, that life that was taking place has discounted you in some way from experiencing God. God's grace flows to the deepest, darkest, most hurtful moments that you've experienced and encountered. And that grace also flows to the other people who have hurt you, which is difficult. It's difficult to accept that. It's difficult to embrace that. And I understand. I've had those moments in my own life as well as I've been searching after God, this struggle with showing and giving grace. When you just go, God, I want to accept it, but man, it's hard to give it to other people. And so we experience this thing where we can just go, man, God, I hear this proverb and I want that, but can this happen for me? And can that grace even be something? But let me get, and this is what takes place. You saw the baptism video during service, and we watch as people continually are giving their lives to Christ and getting baptized. And the same thing happens over and over. They say, I need to get my life together before I can follow Jesus. And I go, whoa, 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 that's actually not how it works. You can't get your life together. Look, there's a whole big section of self-help books at any local Barnes & Noble while they're still there until Amazon crushes them like a bug. Like, you can go to that section and see that, and there's a bunch of them. The problem is no one ever sits, just reads that book and goes, I'm all better, I'm good. Why? You've been trying so long to help yourself. Stop. The only way that you can get transformation is through Jesus. The only way that that can happen is through Him. And I love the way that Philip Yancey puts it. He shares it this way. He says, I have learned that faith means trusting in advance what will make sense in reverse. Meaning that we think, I have to get my life together, then I can experience a Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord life. Once I have everything together, he goes, no, 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 no. You need to trust in God. The one who can take away your sins, the one who can wash your life clean, the one who can restore you, who can take away the anger, the pride, the hurt, the jealousy, the woundedness, heal you from that and move you to a place of being whole. And the only way that that begins to happen is when we really live as though God is the one that can do that God, through His Son Jesus, can take that away. And if you are a believer, and if you don't get anything else, whether you're new to faith or been following for a while, my hope is that you get this, is that when we trust God, grace is our megaphone. That when we follow Him, that when we trust in Him, that everyone around us, when they even explore the topic of grace, that one of the first names that they would encounter and think about is yours. And I wonder this morning, if you claim to follow Jesus, if people had a conversation about what grace looks like, would you be one of the people that they would bring up in conversation? See, it gets really quiet then. And I don't ask that in a mean way. I ask that to be able to reflect and go, is there a chance that my life needs to change and be more trusting in God so that my life can be grace to other people and move in ways that I never would have imagined? You see, I understand why Jesus hung out way more with people that were thought of as sinful than He did with Christians, than He did with people that didn't, that follow Jesus. I love that He spent that. And the more time that I spend with people that don't follow God and people that do, I get, no offense to anybody that follows Jesus, but man, people who don't follow Jesus, they don't prop up things, and there's less pretense. They kind of just say it how it is. And I think over time, with people that follow Jesus, there's a little bit more pretense involved. There's a little bit more of like, well, look at my life and see what's going on. I won't tell you too much. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll be transparent. What they really mean is translucent. And I'm going to give you a little bit of detail, but I'm not going to let you in too much. And I grew up in a generation that went to church and you put on airs and everything was fine, and then all of a sudden you get in the car and everybody yells and screams at one another. I watched that happen in other people's families, and it wasn't so much in mine, but I would watch people and they'd wave at one another and then they'd get in the car and scream at one another. And then it was just this weird, wow, it's why, when you look at it, it's interesting that the very people who claimed faith were the people that ended up putting Jesus on the cross. You see, there's so much misunderstanding about where the foundation is that we have to tear it down and rebuild it from the ground up. You see, misunderstanding must be nakedly exposed before true wisdom can begin to flourish. If you want to be wise, if you want to have a life that is truly life-giving to God and to others, you have to be able to strip that away. Which means the things that you may believe right now about God and about faith, and I know that grandma taught you about whatever, and she took you to Sunday school, and you had the flannel graph that was on there, and you did all of the things there, and you sang the songs, and there may be a chance that what you've built your faith on isn't exactly what you need. And there may be a chance that you've gotten part of it wrong. I know over time, I've learned that I got a lot more wrong than I got right. And the longer that I'm at this, I go, man, maybe there's a chance that I need to tear that down and rebuild that so that when I trust God, that my life can be a megaphone, a just alert call to others of love and grace. And what will that look like in your life? Well, the writer continues on in Proverbs, shares this: blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all of her paths are peace. She is the tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed. See, Jesus knew a thing or two about this movement of what took place when it came to living grace out loud. You see, as he walked through life and taught these guys, this group of people, the disciples, and you may have, if you're at all familiar with church or maybe even with art and culture, more than likely you have seen the painting of the Last Supper, and this is a drawing rendition, a different take on that. And what happened during this time, it was in the last final days of Jesus, and he had gathered them together for the Passover, and they were sitting down to eat. And so they sit down at the table, and here the rendition shows that they're all in chairs and everything else, but more than likely, due to the culture, they would have been down at a lower table, and so they would have lounged, they would have been sitting down on the floor, maybe on cushions if it were a little more extravagant of a place, and they would sit down on the floor and they're talking. And as they're talking about this, all of the disciples start to argue. Jesus had talked to them about the kingdom of God. That one day there's going to be this amazing kingdom, whatever. And they thought, if you ever heard this, you're thinking like Braveheart Kingdom, freedom, and all this stuff. If you're hearing this with them, they've experienced this through the Roman Empire and all the things that are taking place. And so they're talking about the ins and outs of structure. They're talking about, here's the points that we need to be, and here's what we need to do, and here's the levels that we need to have. And they're talking about all of these things they want to be in the structure of it. And as they're doing this, if I had been Jesus, I would have just been like, y'all are dumb, very lovingly. But Jesus doesn't even do that because he knows he knows they're missing the point. And the disciples did this a lot. And so if you've ever felt like, man, I've engaged church, I've engaged faith, I've gone to a small group, I go to Sunday mornings, I'm reading my Bible, and I feel like I'm missing the boat sometimes on this. The disciples were in the very room with Jesus, and they totally missed what was taking place because they're still kind of arguing about what's going to happen with this kingdom. And so Jesus just kind of walks over, and he grabs a basin of water, grabs a towel, which this would have happened as they entered the room. They would travel and their feet would be dirty and they would be kind of gross and someone would be there to greet them. Well, it's not noted anywhere that there was anybody there to do that, which we can kind of reflect and look in. Well, Jesus probably didn't want to alert anybody that he was there because he would have probably been taken into custody and died before it was his time. And so they probably dismissed all the help. And so as they're arguing, Jesus grabs the basin and he leans down and he just begins, as they're still just missing the point about what it meant to live for God. He begins washing the feet of his friends. See, as they traveled and things were dirty, these sandals walking, he says, you know what? Doesn't even say a word. His actions begin to speak more than any part of the conversation. What he said with that simple act was, guys, I know you want to argue all day long about what happens in the kingdom, about what happens with other people, but I want to show you what it means by actions, not with words, what it means to love me and care for others. And it's not going to be how much you know. He didn't give them a quiz on what they knew about the Old Testament law. And so maybe for you go, man, I know a lot about the Bible. He didn't give them a quiz on how many places that they had served in and what positions they had held. He didn't ask them for their qualifications. And so if you've ever felt like you don't know enough or you've never been to enough places or you never served enough capacities, no. Say, I love you, you have worth, and I'm going to serve you. And it's going to start with one of the most lowly of ways, because it's not about me, it's about my Father. And I want to care for you by being grace in action. Which is why when we look at the life of Jesus, when we say, how do I be that? When I trust God, when you trust God, our life, that grace is going to be a megaphone to others. He could have reprimanded them. He could have shut them down. And instead, so I'm going to care for you. Imagine if we lived in a world where when we disagreed with someone else and we had every opportunity to show them what we know and how right we are, that instead we loved them and showed them grace despite our differences. The world would be a much different place. It's why we have to rebuild this from the ground up. And two things that I would note is that first that trust starts when we listen, which is one of the things that very few people know how to do these days. Watch any type of news broadcast, and you'll see that as people are talking, the talking heads that they interview on, which, by the way, they always pick the most polarizing people known to man. If they're going to pick somebody on this side or that side, they're going to pick as far as possible because it's good TV. And so they put these people, and what do? They talk over one another. They don't listen to be, I don't want to hear, I want to understand. No, they're immediately talking over one another because they just want to get their point across. And trust with God starts when we listen. First with God, that we listen to him, and it begins in this wisdom of how we move, how we love others, how we show grace. I meet people who want to, follow God, and they go, I don't know where to start. And I direct them in the Bible, and they go, man, I'm just not very gracious. I go, well, pray more, read more, and then act on it. Well, I don't know how I can do that. When you trust God, he begins to do that in you, which is why we follow God, and he molds us, not let me get myself together, and then I'll follow him. And trust starts when we listen to God. It also starts when we listen to others, which is very unpopular. Usually we want to commiserate a little bit, have everybody feel sorry for us, and then move forward. But more often than not, what God wants for us is to listen to others, and we say this all the time. The people that love God and love you, but love God more than you. So they can lovingly share things that are difficult for you to hear. Because people that love God and love you, but love God more than you, they're not going to set you up to go to jail. They're not going to set you up for a broken marriage. They're not going to set you up for your kids to be in juvenile detention. They are going to give you wisdom to help you succeed in life to honor God. More often than not, we treat God more like we do the area at Best Buy with the headphones. How many of you guys have ever been there? You see all the headphones, you do. And this happens with my daughters. We'll go to Best Buy and they're like, let's go to the headphones. And they rush over there. And I love Best Buy because I'm like a tech nerd. And so if it's a gadget, I want to know how it works. So we go in there and they rush to the headphones and they'll put them on. And it's a little embarrassing because I'll watch, like even our youngest one, she'll have her headphones on. She'll be like, and doing their thing. And I'm like, whoa, where did you learn to move like that? I don't know, Daddy, I'm just feeling it. I'm like, whoa. And this is what we do with God. We hop into faith and we put something on. We're like, oh, I love this. This is good. God, I love you. I'm going to raise my hand. And then we take the headphones off and we move over to something that doesn't resonate with us or rubs. And we put that on. We're like, ooh, God, you can go ahead and keep that one. I'm going to put it over there. We're like, oh, Jesus, this is my jam. And we put this on. But it goes even further than that. I don't know how many of you guys have ever played dodgeball, but one of the things that the big thing in dodgeball is to not get hit. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. You just go and This hamster falls asleep at the wheel. And like the point of dodgeball is to not get hit. And what happens is not only do we only listen to the things that we want to, we kind of pick God like he's a, this buffet of advice and go, I'll put that down, I'll put this on. But then we dodge, very literally dodge things that we don't want to hear from God or from others. And people that are in our life that we go, man, they're absolutely amazing, start to say things that we know we need to hear, but we don't want to hear. We're like, man, just give me Oreos. Do not give me orthopedic inserts. Yeah, Oreos. Hey. And give me the good stuff. Don't give me the thing. I don't want to hear about that. And so what do? We start veering away from those relationships. We start veering away from being a part of the church and going to church because we came on a Sunday and we go, oh, I didn't really like that, or the band didn't play my song, and all this stuff. And we move through these things, or we open up the Bible and we go, I didn't really like what God had to say about that. I'm going to close that up. And we dodge the things that could be the very foundational, life-giving moments because we think we know better. And if we are going to trust, it starts with listening. And the other piece of that is that grace speaks loudest in action. I meet people that go, man, I'm trying to show grace. I'm like, you're either showing it or you're not. There's no 25% of grace. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't show up and now this is where it gets really difficult. Because we say, Jason, you don't understand. What about when I watch the news and someone has done something evil, something malicious, something absolutely awful? Like, why would anyone ever show them grace? Or Jason, you don't understand the situation that I've been through. Someone in my life during the course of from birth to now really hurt me. And grace is the last thing that I want to show. I want to let you know that I understand. I have sat where you've sat. Maybe not in the exact circumstances, but I've had people in my life that have wounded me too. I get it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that you're going to wake up in the morning tomorrow and you're going to be like, I can't wait to show grace to that person. They were mean. I love them. No, there are moments where I've shown grace to people in my life that it's been very difficult to still love them, but it's hard to love somebody that you're not praying for. It's hard to love somebody and care for somebody that you're not trying to start to show compassion and grace towards. And if you and I want to have our lives follow Jesus, it has to speak the loudest in action, to actually do it. And I would caution us that far too often, Christians have become life coaches. Let me give you some advice. And we post, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with posting inspirational passages from the Bible, your morning reading, and then you post it on there. But I want to encourage us that following Jesus is down into the depths. I hear Christians say, I want to go deeper. No, you're either with Jesus in the deep end, or you're sitting over there drinking, pina coladas, not following him. There is no partway deep with Jesus. And what people mean is, I want to get deep, I want to know more. Cool, how about you do more? Because people don't care about what you know, they care about who you love and how you care. And so for us as believers, I want to make sure that you're a lifeguard, not a life coach. Tony Robbins, look at that guy. Hey, buddy. And what happens with a life coach? What do? They invite a bunch of people in who need inspiration. And he tells them what they need to do, and then he sends them off to go do it with no accountability, no interjection in life. No, just I have the answers, come to me, and this is what people perceive Christians in the church as. I'm going to be a life coach. I'm going to tell you what you need. Lifeguards, what do? They get trained, they show up where people are having an amazing time, but have the possibility of death. And they go, I'm going to show up, I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to celebrate when you did that, gainer off the diving board. Man, that was awesome. I'm going to watch everybody in the pool. I'm going to see how things are going on. And if you start to flounder, I am here for you. I'm not going anywhere. And not only am I going to take you out, I'm going to save you. But I'm going to let you know what you could do and how you could move so that your life will still be in existence as you're in the deep end. And so I'm going to teach you. And I'm going to make sure you're okay. And I'm going to make sure you get the help you need because I'm not going anywhere. But I've met far too many Christians who just move in a coach manner. Hey, how's it going? Hey, do this. Way to go, champ. Instead of being, man, I want to walk this out with you and be in the thick of it with you. And I'm going to be right there in the dark places that you're in the moments where you could get hurt. I'm going to be there with you. And if you need help, I will be there because Jesus was there for me, and I want to be there for you, and I want to make sure that my life is trusting God so loudly that the megaphone out loud tells everybody else, you know what? If you need grace, you can find it through God, and I'm following Him, and you'll definitely find it with me. My prayer is that could be said of you, but it starts with following Jesus. It starts with listening to Him, trusting Him, and putting your life in His hands. And that choice, that's up to you. My prayer is that you would choose wisely and choose Jesus. Would you pray with me? Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.